2 astronauts, originally scheduled for an 8-year mission aboard the International Space Station, ISS, may now be stranded there until the next year due to ongoing safety concerns with Boeing's Starliner spacecraft. This situation has intensified scrutiny on Boeing's space program, especially as SpaceX's Crew Dragon spacecraft has repeatedly demonstrated its reliability. Elon Musk could soon make a revealing announcement regarding Boeing's Starliner issues, potentially exacerbating an already troubled situation for Boeing's space division. NASA recently delayed the astronauts' return, citing safety concerns surrounding the Starliner. Astronauts Sunita Williams and Barry Butch Wilmore, originally meant to return in February aboard Boeing's spacecraft, will instead rely on SpaceX's Crew Dragon. This shift highlights an increasingly stark contrast between SpaceX's dominance and Boeing's struggles within the modern space industry. The unfolding drama began in August 2024, when Musk posted a cryptic tweet, stating, "Aircraft companies won't rule the space industry, just like car makers won't rule the aircraft business." Many interpreted this statement as a direct jab at Boeing, which has historically been a leader in aerospace but has faced repeated setbacks in its efforts to establish a foothold in crewed spaceflight. Musk's comments came on the heels of NASA's decision to forego using Starliner due to technical problems encountered during a June 2024 docking attempt at the ISS. What could have been a routine mission nearly turned into a potential crisis, as NASA feared that the astronauts would lack a safe means of returning to Earth without SpaceX's intervention. Musk noted that if SpaceX were unavailable, NASA might have had to rely on Russian space services to bring the astronauts back, a scenario that would have marked a significant setback for U.S. space independence. The incident underscored the critical role of private companies in ensuring continuous and safe human spaceflight capabilities, as well as the risks associated with depending on a single provider. This latest Starliner setback is part of a long string of difficulties for Boeing's Crew program. Over a decade ago, NASA awarded contracts to both Boeing and SpaceX to develop spacecraft capable of transporting astronauts to the ISS, with the goal of reducing U.S. reliance on Russian Soyuz missions. Boeing was awarded $4.2 billion for its CST-100 Starliner, while SpaceX received $2.6 billion for its Crew Dragon. Initially, Boeing's long-standing expertise led many to believe it would be the first to complete a successful crewed mission, while SpaceX, a relatively new entrant to the field, faced greater skepticism. However, since 2020, SpaceX has successfully launched 7 crewed missions, demonstrating consistent reliability. In contrast, Boeing has yet to complete a single crewed mission with the Starliner. Boeing's repeated technical and safety failures have cast serious doubts on the viability of the Starliner, especially as SpaceX continues to deliver strong, dependable performance. The incident raises broader questions about the sustainability of Boeing's role in human spaceflight, with some critics suggesting the company may need to re-evaluate its space strategy. Boeing's vision for the Starliner was ambitious. It was designed to be a highly reliable spacecraft for transporting astronauts to and from the ISS. The Starliner consists of a reusable crew capsule and a disposable service module, distinguishing it from other spacecraft currently in operation. While its interior is larger than that of SpaceX's Crew Dragon, it's smaller than NASA's Orion spacecraft, which is designed for deep space missions. Starliner has the capacity to carry up to 7 astronauts, though NASA limits flights to 4 astronauts at a time. Additionally, the Starliner can remain docked at the ISS for up to 7 months, launching on an Atlas VN-22 rocket from Cape Canaveral, Florida. Despite Boeing's efforts, the Starliner program has encountered numerous obstacles since its inception. From software bugs to parachute issues, the Starliner's journey has been riddled with setbacks. Originally expected to be ready for crewed flights in 2017, the spacecraft's timeline has been repeatedly delayed due to engineering challenges and program management issues. One of the earliest signs of trouble came during a December 2019 test flight. The Starliner launched successfully atop an Atlas V rocket, but after it separated from the rocket, it encountered a major problem that prevented it from reaching its intended destination, the ISS. About 15 minutes after launch, the Starliner separated from the rocket and prepared to fire its engines to begin its journey toward the ISS. However, the engines failed to ignite when first prompted, causing the spacecraft to deviate from its intended path. Boeing engineers worked quickly to regain control, successfully firing the Starliner's main engines and stabilizing its orbit. However, the incident underscored a significant vulnerability. A critical timing error in the Starliner's systems had caused the spacecraft to misinterpret its position, resulting in a series of incorrect maneuvers that wasted fuel and put the entire mission in jeopardy. Following this incident, NASA and Boeing officials held a press conference at Cape Canaveral, where former NASA Administrator Jim Bridenstine provided an initial report on what had gone wrong. Bridenstine explained that the Starliner's internal clock had been misaligned, leading the spacecraft to believe it was further along in its mission than it actually was. This seemingly minor error caused a chain reaction of malfunctions, which nearly derailed a billion-dollar mission. The failure served as a humbling reminder of the high-stakes nature of space travel, where even the smallest oversight can have far-reaching consequences. In the wake of this near miss, Boeing committed to conducting an additional unmanned test flight to ensure the Starliner was ready for crewed missions. NASA initiated a 7-month investigation that revealed over 80 issues that Boeing needed to address before attempting another launch. While Boeing worked on these repairs, SpaceX continued to make steady progress with its Crew Dragon, which by then had already completed multiple successful crewed missions. As Boeing prepared for another uncrewed test flight originally scheduled for 2021, further complications emerged. Engineers discovered over 1,000 corroded valves within the Starliner's propulsion system, necessitating additional rework and testing. These valve issues delayed the launch further, ultimately pushing it to May 2022. When the Starliner finally completed a second uncrewed flight, it successfully docked with the ISS and returned to Earth without major issues, a significant milestone for Boeing after years of setbacks. Following this successful test, NASA announced plans for Starliner's first crewed flight, with veteran astronauts Barry Butch Wilmore and Sunita Williams chosen for the mission. Both astronauts brought a wealth of experience to the table. Wilmore, a former combat pilot, had previously flown missions during the Gulf War and served as a flight test instructor before joining NASA in 2000. His extensive experience in space included a 2009 mission aboard the Space Shuttle Atlantis and a 6-month stay on the ISS in 2014, during which he completed 4 spacewalks. Williams, an experienced Navy helicopter pilot and astronaut, had a similarly impressive record. She was the first woman to serve as a test pilot for a new spacecraft. Having joined NASA in 1998, Williams flew her first mission to the ISS in 2006 aboard the Shuttle Discovery, where she made history by spending 195 consecutive days in space. Both Williams and Wilmore were confident in their abilities to handle the Starliner's inaugural crewed flight, but the spacecraft itself continued to face obstacles. In 2023, as Boeing prepared to conduct further tests, new issues arose with the Starliner's parachute system and electrical wiring. Engineers identified that nearly a mile of tape used to insulate the spacecraft's wiring was flammable, necessitating a costly and time-consuming overhaul. Despite these challenges, by the spring of 2024, Boeing seemed close to a breakthrough, having resolved the engineering issues that had plagued the Starliner program for years. Yet, as the launch countdown began on May 6, 2024, an issue with an oxygen relief valve caused another delay. A second attempt on May 21 was also thwarted due to a helium leak in one of the Starliner's thrusters. Finally, after numerous setbacks, the crew test was cleared for June 1, 2024. The Starliner launched successfully, carrying Wilmore and Williams, and docked with the ISS the following day. However, the mission encountered more trouble as additional helium leaks and a thruster failure complicated the docking process, ultimately prolonging the mission. This mission, intended to last 8 days, stretched to 9 as the return date was postponed to June 22. Media scrutiny intensified as questions arose regarding Starliner's safety and the reasons for the astronauts' prolonged stay. Despite Boeing's assurances, NASA was not convinced of Starliner's reliability and made the decision to arrange for SpaceX to retrieve the astronauts. This move underscored the growing doubts surrounding Boeing's space program, with NASA prioritizing astronaut safety over allegiance to its longtime partner. With Boeing's reputation under fire, the situation marks a significant setback for a company once seen as a leader in American space exploration. The Starliner program, initially touted as Boeing's answer to safe and cost-effective crewed space travel, now faces an uncertain future. For Boeing, success in space may require a complete re-evaluation of its approach, with a renewed focus on safety, reliability, and accountability.